I met Nael Barghouti recently, and he was released from jail after spending 42 years. The last 2 years are the worst ever, and they are more horrible than all the 40 years. But nobody speaks about the 700 Palestinian bodies of Palestinian captives who are kept in Israeli custody already, some of them for 50 years. Who talks about two-state solution? Israel never.
A doctor who chose to serve his people, not only in hospitals, but also in public life. A leader who has spent decades speaking for justice, dignity, and Palestinian rights. A voice that have remained strong even under pressure and threats. A man who believed in unity, dialogue, and peaceful resistance. That leader is Dr. Mustafa Barghouti. Welcome today to our show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to be with you.
Dr. Mustafa, first of all, you live in the West Bank, you live in Ramallah. How difficult is it to travel in and out from the West Bank?
Well, I was born in Jerusalem, and I worked for 15 years in Jerusalem as a medical doctor.
No.
And since 2005, I was prevented from entering Jerusalem, like most people. My sister lives in Jerusalem. I can't visit her.
You haven't seen your sister for over 20 years?
No, she comes to see me in Ramallah, but I can't go and see her in Jerusalem. And that is the situation with maybe 95% of Palestinians, although Jerusalem is part of the occupied West Bank. And West Bank itself is now under terrible, terrible conditions. The Israelis have imposed 1,100 military checkpoints that cut the country into pieces. There are no less than 200 military gates that transform many communities into small prisons. Whenever they want, they shut off the gate. For instance, I have colleagues working with us in medical field from Hizma, which is a village between Ramallah and Jerusalem. And since 5 days, Israel has imposed complete siege on Hizma. They shut off the gate, and that's it. The people are in prison. Even if there are sick people, women who are pregnant who need to get to hospital and so on. So life in the West Bank has become very difficult. I used to travel from Ramallah to Bethlehem in 45 minutes. And now it takes at least 3 to 4 hours to get there.
3-4 hours?
Yes. And to travel to Hebron is another problem. To travel everywhere, it's a problem because of the imposed military checkpoints that aim specifically at blocking people's lives. There are checkpoints, all the entrances of Ramallah are closed, and there is one that remains open, and then they could close it like from 8 to 12 or from 8 to 11. You never know. So so I'm not allowed to go to Jerusalem. Of course, I'm not allowed to go to Gaza. Although I've been in Gaza in every previous war except this one. And I'm not. The only passage we still have is the passage to Jordan through the bridge. But even the bridge is a problem because Israel allows people to cross only from 8 to 1:30. And on Saturday it is completely closed. And on Friday it's open till 12 only. And there are times when it is so crowded and people spend 3-4 days waiting to be able to cross. So it's a harsh situation for everybody. And even before, when I used to go to Gaza, they wouldn't allow me to go through the normal road, which takes 1 hour and 1.5 hours usually. I had to travel to Jordan, fly to Egypt, cross Sinai. So 2 days instead of 2 hours.
So it's a very...
If you can. And now we can't even do that.
And even before, not everyone is allowed to travel, even if it's that difficult that as you're mentioning.
Many people are even prevented from traveling abroad completely.
Because, today the world is focused on Gaza. And the life have changed really in the West Bank, as you're mentioning. Do you fear that the West Bank is moving toward more violence and instability?
First of all, the war did not stop in Gaza. There is a unilateral ceasefire, which means Palestinians are respecting the ceasefire, but Israel doesn't. And Israel has violated the ceasefire already 1,320 times. Yesterday, they killed 12 people in Gaza through their bombardment. So the war is still going on, only from one side, the Israeli side. And unfortunately, the world is allowing them to do so. In the West Bank, we have been subjected during the last 2 years to horrible treatment. First of all, you have settler gangs who act as terrorist groups, attacking Palestinian communities, burning cars, burning houses, shooting people. Up till now, these gangs killed 33 Palestinians. And together with the army, during the last 2 years, they've killed more than 1,100 Palestinians. The gangs are very dangerous because they pressure communities to live under terror. And that's why they managed to evict 60 communities out of their land in the West Bank. And the terrorist settlers attacks continue every day. Unfortunately, with the help, the support, and the protection of the Israeli army, they have uprooted in the last 2 years 48,000 trees, including mostly olive trees. And you know, olive trees are very important for Palestinians. They have destroyed roads, they have burned houses, and Israel conducted no less than 22,000 arrests during the last 2 years. So yes, there is a lot of violence against Palestinians everywhere. And there are lots of detentions and arrests. Out of the 10,000 Palestinians in Israeli jails now, and I call them really captives, there are at least 300,650 who are detained without charges. They don't know why they are in jail. They call it administrative detention.
For how long time can they stay in that?
This can go on for years. I know somebody who was in jail for 7 years without charges. And more than that, there are 400 children who are in jail.
When we say children, what age are we talking about?
Between 12 and 17.
Between 12 and 17.
And add to that the fact that in the last 2 years, the prisoners, which we can really call them captives, because when they are kept in jail without charges, without legal process, they are captives. They are not allowed to meet Red Cross. They are subjected to torture. They are subjected to starvation. And they are subjected to horrible hygienic conditions. We've lost already 122 of them during the last 2 years who were killed in jail. And either because of torture or bad treatment or deprivation of medical care. Many of the prisoners I meet after they come back from jail, they tell me they are all infected with scabies, which is a terrible skin disease. And sometimes it gets complicated with bacterial infection, which is horrible. You know, imagine a person in jail with very little food, with no medications, and he or she are allowed to are not allowed to change their clothes. Some of them were in the same clothes for 5-6 months.
5-6 months?
Yes. And it goes on. Women told me stories about how, you know, they were deprived from basic hygienic needs, and you know they need lots of necessities because of the situation. So I met Nael Barghouti recently in Turkey. He was released from jail after spending 42 years. 42. He told me the door of his cell, which is a metallic door, was changed 3 times while he was in jail.
And I was still in that same...
The doors were out, and he was still in the prison. But he told me 40 years I don't count. The last 2 years are the worst ever. And they are more horrible than all the 40 years because of the fact that Ben Gvir, who's a fascist Israeli minister, is really purposefully torturing Palestinian captives in the most horrible way.
So even true, they have blamed them or for old stuff that they are charged with, or even not charged sometimes. They have been there sent for 40 years, for example, as Mr. Nael Barghouti. But the last 2 years, they blame on him for things he haven't done, basically, and treat him worse.
Exactly. Even if there was a decision to release him before, they reactivated his imprisonment.
Was he supposed to be released within these 2 last years? Or even before than that?
No, he was 11 years ago. He was released in an exchange, and then they rearrested him.
Yeah, that's something we see on the news or on social media. Multiple prisoners that have been released when they do the prison. What do you call it? They exchange
In the exchange of prisoners.
Yes, they arrest them again after.
Absolutely, many are rearrested. For basically, you are
on the old charges.
You are dealing with an Israeli government that respects no law, respects no agreement, and for them there is the international law and international humanitarian law does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard there were lots of talks about this last Israeli captive in Gaza, the body of whom was there, and the Palestinians did everything to try to find him, and eventually he was found. But the whole world was talking about this person. I'm glad his body was found and that was given to his family. I understand the feeling of his family. But nobody speaks about the 700 Palestinian bodies of Palestinian captives who are kept in Israeli custody already, some of them for 50 years. Nobody knows or talks about the fact, and I want Europeans to know that if a person is in Israeli jail, sentenced, let's say, to 40 years or 30 years, if he dies in prison, his body must be kept in prison till the body finishes the terms. Can you imagine that?
So if a person is sentenced for 10 years, he die after 8 years,
his body has to be imprisoned to finish the term. And many of these bodies are sentenced to life sentences.
Is that in
so you keep somebody who is under life sentence, he dies, and you keep his body for death sentence
to make his family suffer,
to torture the family. One mother told me from Jenin camp, she was a mother of a boy who's 15 years old in Jenin camp. The boy was shot by the army and killed. And then the army kept his body already for 5 years. And he told me that the mother told me that all she wants in this life now is a grave to cry on. And the army is depriving her from the possibility of having the body of her child who was killed by the same Israeli army. That is a kind of torture that I don't understand. And there are probably more than 1,000 bodies in Gaza that are still kept in Sdeti Man concentration camp, I call it, in the Negev, in the Israeli Negev. And the Israelis, many of these people, we have very big suspicion that many of these people were field executed after they were arrested.
How do you view on the Board of Peace? How could it affect Palestinian situation at the moment?
Well, it's not the Board of Peace, it's the Board of Trump. And it's very strange because the whole thing was based in what they called peace plan. But there is no plan really, and there is no peace. Because if you speak about peace, the first thing that they should speak about is ending Israeli occupation of both West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem. None of that is mentioned. Even the whole West Bank situation is never mentioned. And it doesn't speak frankly and clearly about the total Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. So it's not really proper to call it peace, because it's not really about peace. And to call it an international board is difficult, although 70 countries have signed to it. But the only person in the whole board that has a veto power is Mr. Trump. And the document, I think, says that he will be the president of the board for life. I mean, this is very strange. Even if his time expires as the president of the United States. So it seems he found himself a job for after his presidency. But more than important than that, even if the 70 countries in it decide something, Mr. Trump can simply provoke it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's very helpful. But for us as Palestinians, we have to deal with the situation trying to follow three principles. First one is that Gaza should be run by Gazans, by the people of Gaza, not by an international group.
Okay.
We don't need to substitute Israeli occupation with another international occupation. Second, the Israeli army must withdraw from all of Gaza, and the newly structured Palestinian National Administrative Committee should be in charge of all of Gaza and not part of it. Third, that Gaza and West Bank have to be unified, and there can be no disconnection between the two sides, as Israelis try to do. And finally, of course, Rafah crossing has to be opened in both directions. And the people who are in Egypt trying to come back to Gaza have to be allowed. And I think the principle that the Egyptians insist to, it seems, and we insist to, that the number of people who leave should be equal at least to the number of people who come in. And that is one way of preventing the opening of Rafah crossing from becoming another instrument that Israel will try to use to enforce ethnic cleansing. Because, you know, the whole goal of Israel has never changed. This whole genocidal war that was conducted on Palestinians had one aim, which is the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. And if you talk about what they are doing in the West Bank and in Jerusalem and in Gaza, all together, the only explanation of this whole policy is that their goal is really to enforce ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. And that's why our main goal as Palestinians today is to steadfast and stay in Palestine.
Even though they talk about, or in the media they talk about that Israel talk about two-state solution.
Who talks about two-state solution? Israel never.
They never talked about two-state solution.
You remember in Europe when some Palestinians were calling for using the slogan "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." They didn't mean that only Palestinians will be free. They meant everybody will be free, including Jewish people. Now Netanyahu 3 days ago said that Israel will be in all of historic Palestine. And he used the term, Israel will be a Jewish state from the river to the sea, including Gaza.
Including Gaza.
I didn't hear up till now one single Western leader.
And they based the country on religion and not on nationality.
I didn't hear one foreign leader criticizing Netanyahu for saying that from the river to the sea, it will be only Jewish state. Applying the Israeli law that was passed in the Knesset, the Israeli state nation law, which says that the right of self-determination on the land of historic Palestine, which they call Eretz Israel, is exclusive for Jewish people. So what we face here is not really, the risk here is not really anti-Semitism. The risk here is Jewish supremacy. They are trying to apply Jewish supremacy, in my opinion, against the interest not only of Palestinians, but also of Jewish people themselves.
Because there is multiple Jewish people who is against a Jewish state.
There are Jewish people who believe in justice. And especially now, I am very proud that many of them are in young Jewish people in the United States that are taking stands against the Israeli policy. and against the genocidal war that was conducted against Palestinian people.
Mhm. If we move on to a question that many people ask, you mentioned that Gazans should take care of Gaza, basically.
Palestinians Gaza should be under Palestinian independent rule.
Yes, but today we have the Palestinian government that is in the West Bank. But the situation in the West Bank, they can't really handle it. As we see in the news and as we are talking, the situation in the West Bank is terrible at the moment, sadly. Would they be able to control Gaza, the Palestinian authorities?
Well, the Palestinian Authority made a mistake when it did not implement the Beijing Agreement, which we signed in Beijing by all the 14 Palestinian groups together. And that resolution was that there will be one unified government for both West Bank and Gaza. It will be independent government, but will prepare for free democratic elections. In my opinion, this new structure in Gaza, which is an administrative committee, should be linked to the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. There should be complete coordination and to affirm that Gaza is not separated from West Bank. But in all cases, this interim committee in Gaza is interim. And the West Bank government practically is interim too. We need to reach a point where the Palestinian people will have the right to have free democratic elections to choose their leadership, whether we are talking about the Palestinian Parliament, National Council, or presidency, President of Palestine, or local elections. We need to give the people the right to choose their leaders freely and democratically. This is something we did not have since 20 years. We did not have elections since 20 years. And Israel was always against our elections. Unfortunately, the United States was not encouraging elections. And the PA made a mistake because of Israeli pressures, not to have elections in 2021. My belief is that had we have elections in 2021, and had we have a unified democratic government, it would have been probably capable of lifting the siege on Gaza. And maybe if that had happened, if we had the elections, I believe most probably we would not have had 7th of October.
But now it happened. If we look forward, what do you think? What's your visual idea, or what do you think about the future? It's hard to say, I think, as we see Gaza now, but if you look 5 years from now, today.
Look, Israel has very clear policy. They built 500 illegal settlements in the West Bank. They confiscated more than 50% of the land, practically. They established 1,100 military checkpoints. They are now still occupying 55% of Gaza. And their goal is very clear: to put Palestinians in Gaza and West Bank in the most horrible economic conditions, to achieve for Israel the only solution to the fact that we have 7.3 million Palestinians in Palestine, in historic Palestine, living there now, whether you talk about West Bank, Gaza, or inside 1948 areas, versus 7.1 or 70.2 million Jewish people. What's the solution? 2 states. Israel is killing or has already killed the 2 states option.
By trying with ethnic cleansing.
So if one democratic state, they don't accept. So what is their solution? Ethnic cleansing. They try to put each Palestinian in front of a situation or a choice of either death or departure, immigration, ethnic cleansing. We say no. We will stay. And if they kill the 2-state solution, and I think they already killed the 2-state solution, the only solution is one democratic state with equal rights for everybody in all of Palestine. That's the only real solution to the situation. But you cannot have a democratic state if it is only a Jewish-only state. And you can't have a democratic state if you have a system of apartheid like the one we have today. So in my opinion, we have to struggle for, first of all, to stay in our country, to prevent Israeli efforts to enforce ethnic cleansing, and then achieve freedom through one democratic state.
If we focus on Gaza again, the young kids and even the elder, basically, but the young kids have been trying to studying in tents for 2 or 3 years at the moment. Living under the tents, they have still been trying to study. So these kids have lost 2 to 3 years from their life. How will it be? How do you think? It's hard to know, but how do you think it will be for them? Because they lost 2 years from their childhood and from the education.
We should help them get over that. We run one program in Gaza now, which is trying to upgrade the knowledge of Palestinian school children to fill the gap. In addition to the efforts that are done by the Ministry of Education to keep up this educational system. But look, I am in charge of a very important organization, non-governmental organization that we established 45 years ago. It's called Palestinian Medical Relief Society. We have 80 medical teams working in Gaza. The Israeli army destroyed 11 of our clinics and our 2 major centers. But we did not stop working for a single day. They destroyed our buildings. We worked in tents. They forced people out from one place, they go to another. They destroyed our Jabalia refugee camp clinic, which is called Haidar Abd al-Shafi Clinic, 3 times. And 3 times we rehabilitated it. And it is functioning. I knew there were 70,000 pregnant women who could not receive care because Israel bombarded 94% of all hospitals. We hired 90 midwives in Gaza to take care of the pregnant women. And yes, during the last 2 years, we managed to save the lives of 82,000 newly born children during these 2 years. So we're resilient. The people are resilient. We'll find a way. During the war, Gaza graduated 186 new medical specialists in various fields. And now you have a new generation of new medical doctors that are training in Gaza. I think they will become the best specialists in the world in trauma injuries and in trauma medicine and so on. These people are very capable, and we see the same thing in the West Bank. It's a horrible challenge and a difficult situation. But as I always say, there is no power in this world that can break us.
If people that live outside Palestine in general, people in Europe like us here, want to help, because millions of people have been outside protesting to show their support. But can we really help, and how can we help ordinary people on social media?
You can. Ask yourself a very simple question. Why did the genocidal full-scale war stop? Yes, they still continue to bombard, but the full-scale genocidal war had to stop. Who stopped it?
The people outside.
Of course, you. The people in solidarity. And that's why Trump just translated what you did into an action. He said in the Israeli Knesset when he came that he enforced ceasefire to save Israel from international isolation. Who created the international isolation? You, the people. Now, in the face of ethnic cleansing, we have 2 weapons. One is our steadfastness, and we're practicing that. And second is the international solidarity movement, which should enhance more. And more than that, I say to every Palestinian abroad, wherever they live, in Jordan, in Europe, in the States, you have a duty. You can't come to Palestine. You have a duty to support those who are in Palestine. Even if it's one Palestinian to another Palestinian or one family to another family. We should be self-reliant. We shouldn't wait for help from outside. We should rely on ourselves. And I hope that the 8 million Palestinian refugees, whoever can, with whatever they can, will help those 7.3 million Palestinians inside to stay and survive, because they are the key to maintaining Palestine and for implementing the right of return for those who are refugees.
We have more Palestinians outside Palestine than inside Palestine.
Yes.
8 million. If decision makers are watching or listening to us, what is your direct message to them without any diplomatic language?
No, my message to them is apply international law. If you say two-state solution, impose sanctions on Israel. Because if you don't, it's just hypocrisy to talk about two-state solution while you watch one side slaughtering it completely. So if you believe in two-state solution, exercise pressure to remove all settlements. Even countries that, those who say two-state solution, for instance, Germany, why they recognize Israel and not recognize Palestine? But those who recognized Palestine, like France and others, this recognition means nothing unless it is accompanied by sanctions on Israel to stop the settlement building, sanctions to force Israel to remove the settlements. Otherwise, there will not be a two-state solution. So my demand is apply the law, apply the UN resolutions. And before UN international law was violated in Greenland and violated in Venezuela, it was killed in Gaza. International law was killed in Gaza. That's why those who killed it in Gaza dare to speak about annexing Greenland now. I want the Europeans to understand that. And you can't apply two standards. One standard for Ukraine and Russia, 11,000 sanctions on Russia in 2 months, and not a single sanction on Israel.
On Israel, correct. Thank you very much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have you here. We learned from you, and everyone is listening. We need to learn more and more what's going on and act.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.